with a tiger. What do you think is going to happen after that? Your notion of what is happening at the moment, how it's happening, and where this piece is going to go keep changing through the whole piece until the time when you finish the piece or finish the movie, and you're back in his apartment and see that he's married with a child. I'm sorry, those of you who haven't, see it anyway. See it anyway. But you get the idea. The point is, each time you're raising new questions, and the possibilities for your understanding of the piece keep changing. That is exploring. And it's not only exploring, it's exploring horizons. Horizons are, the exploring happens at the moment, and the exploring also happens for the future. But what also happens is that you're exploring for the future, so your horizons of where the piece is taking you in your thinking continually change too. So what is happening is what I call a double open-endedness. It's kind of like tapping your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. What you're doing is understanding more, or raising issues and explorations now for the moment, and that immediately starts this other kind of rubbing into where that future might be. So exploring horizons of possibilities, because all that happens in the reading of literature are the creation of possibilities. And so even when you finish with The Life of Pi, what you do is you talk to your friends about it, you read about it, you read other people's interpretations of it in the newspapers, you talk to people at school about it, and eventually you find that even then your understandings of The Life of Pi change. Now, I saw this in November, and I can tell you that my interpretation of the piece has changed a lot since then as well, and it's enriched, actually, for me. Obviously I loved it, but it's also enriched, and I have a lot more layers of understanding of that movie that I saw brought in over time. And I have to tell you the truth, I read the book and I wasn't happy with it. I loved the movie for some reason that we will talk about another time. But you understand that there's something very, very special about the literary experience. It's almost time for the bell to ring, so let me get to the very end. I'm not going to tell you about any other kind of meaning-making, but what I want you to do is to see that what I'm saying is that classrooms, I believe, need to be places where students have opportunities to explore horizons of possibilities. That has to be at the center of what we have students do in class. It doesn't have to be all that we have them do in class, because at times what we want to do is to ask them to take a critical read of a piece and to be able to start looking at where we see objects or instances of power and how they actually work themselves out in terms of the piece itself and how it unfolds. We want them to be able to look at a piece and look at certain kinds of issues of psychological reads that we want them to do. So I'm not saying we don't want to do these things. We also want them to learn the received interpretations, incidentally. But I'm saying that if at the heart of what we do in literature is helping them explore horizons of possibilities, they have richer understandings of the piece, they have ownership for the piece. And in order to be able to do that, they can easily then remember what the received interpretation is and why theirs is. They can even argue why theirs is different. And they can even give you good reasons why theirs are different. You can have good discussions about it. But what I'm also arguing is that exploring horizons of possibilities is part of what I consider to be creative thinking. The kind of innovative and creative thinking out of the box, like the physicians and like the computer repair people did. I'm saying that kind of thinking is very much the kind of thinking that I think the people in the United States who are calling for college and career readiness, and perhaps some of the goals in Singapore also are, that only literature can offer. And so I see literature as being not at the periphery of a curriculum, not at the periphery of central offerings, but I think that literature has its place because of the kind of thinking that it helps students learn to do that are going to benefit them in school, and that's my time, and for the rest of their, didn't I do well? And for the rest of their lives, and for the rest of their lives. So that I'm urging you to think about ways in which we can keep literature being as central to students' intellectual development as science, as math, as history. It is. But I think, as I started out by saying, I think literature is the least understood subject in schools, and I think this part that I'm talking to you about today is not understood at all, so that its centrality is being forgotten. So let's all together work to support literature as being central for all students, and certainly for students who want to move ahead to the kinds of positions that our countries are wanting us to move toward. Thank you very much.